I don't know how many of you all have been paying attention, but World War III has been really heating up over the past few days. And from the looks of things, it looks as if they want to get this thing into full swing before the election. And we all kind of already knew this would happen. But just over the past few days, we have had 4 major events happen. World-changing events that will undoubtedly spiral us even further into conflicts all around the world. First up, we had these secret documents leaked, these secret Israeli U.S. military documents about a plan for an attack on Iran, a plan for Israel to attack Iran. Now, if these plans came to fruition, which they haven't yet because the plans literally leaked on the internet, but if these plans came to fruition, it would be like pouring gasoline all over the flames that are already engulfing the Middle East. As you all know, Israel has been at war with Hamas in Gaza. Well, that war has now spilled over to Lebanon, and now Israel is not just at war with Hamas, they're at war with Hezbollah. And if they were to attack Iran directly, like this plan suggested, of course, American soldiers all throughout the Middle East would be put in danger because of retaliation. After that retaliation came, America would undoubtedly get even more involved in this conflict, as we always do. And a lot of our politicians have been thirsty and ready for war with Iran. So that's just one of many things that has been happening over the past couple of days. Now, Vladimir Putin, he announced that he is no longer going to be attending the G20 summit. Now, this rang a lot of alarms. But during this announcement refusing to go to this summit, he also blatantly stated, he just put it out there, that NATO is now at war with Russia. He's not referring to it as a war between Russia and Ukraine any longer. He says that this is a war between NATO and Russia, and that NATO is basically using Ukrainian hands to wage this war. So he's basically put it out there, hey, we're already acknowledging and viewing this conflict as something far bigger than it's just us invading Ukraine, or this is a conflict between us and Ukraine. No, he straight up said it's war between Russia and NATO. He says that NATO is at war with Russia. Now that's a big development, because he's acknowledging what we already know, but he's officially acknowledging it on the world stage, that the war has already begun between NATO and Russia. We're not waiting for the day that it comes. It's already happening. Now, after Putin announces this, the president of China, Xi Jinping, he comes out, he has meetings with all of his top military officials, and he tells them and gives them all the order to prepare for war. So these are now 3 major things that are happening over the span of the last week. So you got war. I mean, it's already going crazy in the Middle East. Now it's about to go to the next level. And when I say next level, it's going to go 3 or 4 notches up, right? You got Putin saying straight up, this is war between Russia and NATO now. You got China coming out telling their military to prepare for war. And it was just exposed that North Korean troops are now in Russia preparing to fight alongside Russia in their war with NATO and Ukraine. Now, I've seen some of the comments because I talked about this in a prior video. Folks, this is not mercenaries. These are not mercenaries from North Korea. These aren't random defectors or freedom fighters or whatever you would want to call them. These aren't contract fighters. These are North Korean special forces on the ground in Russia, ready to aid and help Russia in their war against Ukraine, or as Putin put it, NATO. Now, in my opinion, this is basically going to crank things up a notch, and it's going to give NATO the go ahead to put boots on the ground as well. Now, will we see that happen? Hopefully not. And are boots already on the ground in some cases in a unofficial capacity? Yes. But I'm talking about officially putting boots on the ground, like how North Korea officially sent some special forces units over there to aid Russia. So, all around the board, folks, this is heating up to a level that we've never seen before in our lifetimes. And it's like I've been telling you all, World War III already began. It began a while back. And it's taken a while for things to get to the point that you all are waiting for. Everyone's waiting for the nuclear bombs to drop and all this crazy stuff to happen. But World War III might not look the way that you think it's going to look. It may surprise us. It may look differently than anything we've seen before, especially with modern day technology and things like that. And then when you got world superpowers that are all capable of absolutely wiping each other off the map, you have to think more strategically. So I don't know how this is going to go, but this is going to go, folks. The bubble is about to pop. But I want to go ahead and roll this news clip really quickly. Let's listen to what they're talking about, what they're saying about this over on the news, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Here with us now is Brett Bruen, a former U.S. diplomat under the Obama and Bush administrations and president of the Global Situation Room. Brett, good morning. Let's start with these leaked documents. How damning is this if Israel was planning on retaliating against Iran? How much does it complicate things?
Well, Hannah, one thing you always ask yourself when you see these leaked documents is why. And I believe that from the information that's come out thus far, we can determine that this was probably released by Iran in an effort to disrupt those planned attacks. Now, how they got a hold of that information is another question. It was distributed to the Five Eyes, our most close allies, as well as obviously to a number of U.S. National security officials. So where in that chain did Iran or someone linked with Iran get a hold of it? There are obviously questions about whether or not it came from some internal or if it was externally hacked. But either way, it's obviously damaging.
We also have this massive strike in northern Gaza overnight that I mentioned. With these further strikes in the region, how does it complicate negotiations between Hamas and Israel, more importantly, getting those hostages home?
Well, I think what Israel's doing is saying, look, we're not going to let up just because we may have taken out the leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas. We are going to keep our pressure on. We're going to ensure that the military objectives are achieved. And that will, in one theory, push the remaining leaders of Hamas, Hezbollah, to negotiate better conditions. So I think what Israel is trying to achieve right now are advantages and to get as much militarily accomplished as it can before it has to get back to the negotiating table.
There is so much to talk about. I have to turn to another major conflict, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, Ukraine is releasing video. It claims it shows North Korean troops in Russian military gear getting ready for deployment heading to Ukraine. But I have to ask you, how significant would it be if North Korea actually sends troops, boots on the ground in Ukraine?
Yeah, this is really worrying, Hannah, because it actually has the potential to create not just an expanded conflict within Ukraine or Europe, but to bring in a whole nother region, a whole nother country. If something on a significant scale should happen to North Korean soldiers and Kim Jong-un decides that this is a moment for retaliation not only against Ukraine, but potentially some of its allies, including the United States, that is a worst case scenario. So this is a pretty, unprecedented development that North Korean soldiers would be fighting outside of the Korean Peninsula. But secondly, I just think it opens up this whole tinderbox of danger.
What would it take for American troops to get involved in this conflict if it appears other countries might be joining this fight?
I don't think we're looking at, apart from perhaps some American trainers going to Ukraine, a larger scale U.S. involvement. I think both leaders of the Democratic and the Republican Party have indicated they do not want to see U.S. boots on the ground. At the same time, and what we're hearing from President Zelensky is that he needs more. He needs more weapons. He needs more weapon systems. And so I think it's important for us to look at what more we can do, because up until now, just short of 3 years into this conflict, we are seeing that the Ukrainians are struggling only to, hold on to territory, let alone to claw back territory that was taken from them.
Ukrainian President Zelensky rolling out a strategy. He says it's his victory plan. He wants to force Russia to the negotiating table. I am curious how likely that is, especially with new reports that Ukrainian drones targeted Moscow overnight. Do you think Ukraine is doing enough to force Putin's hand and end this war that has been going on for years now?
I think they're doing as much as they can with what they have, but no, clearly it isn't enough to push Putin to the negotiating table, to push him to make real concessions. Because, let's be honest here, if we simply suggest that we're going to accept the status quo, that Ukrainian territory, about 25% of Ukraine, will be ceded to Russia, I think that's pretty unacceptable, both for the Ukrainians, but also for NATO and clearly the United States. So it's important, I think, for Zelensky to have more tools to be able then to put Putin in a position where it's just uncomfortable.
Brett Bruen, this insight, very valuable this morning. Thank you so much, especially with everything going on around the world.
Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything this guy was saying, for one. I 100% believe that NATO would use the excuse of North Korean troops being boots on the ground in Ukraine. I think NATO would use that as an excuse to put boots on the ground as well. Now, I'm not saying that NATO would put boots on the ground just because there's a couple of hundred North Koreans helping out Russia. But if this turns out to start happening on a bigger scale, I'm talking about if we start seeing tens of thousands of North Korean troops aiding in Russia's effort of fighting Ukraine or fighting NATO or however you want to put it, then 100% I think we'll see boots on the ground. Don't ever think for one moment that these politicians running this country on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, do not think for one hot second that they won't send your loved ones to war, because they will in a freaking heartbeat. And a lot of them have been wanting to already for a long time. It's a miracle. It's a complete miracle right now that things haven't gotten as bad as they could be. But right now, when I'm looking at some of the moves that are being made, it looks like there's an effort to make things as bad as they can possibly be right before the election. Because a lot of these moves are moves that could have been made. The war between, Russia and Ukraine, it's not new. We've been watching this play out for years. Why now are you bringing in foreign troops from other countries to help you fight 2 or 3 weeks before the election? Why now are you acknowledging this is a war between Russia and NATO? Why now is China coming out telling everyone to get ready for war? Why now is Israel planning on attacking Iran right before the election? What is going on? It looks like there's an effort, like almost a worldwide effort, to cause chaos, folks. And the chaos is coming because this bubble right now, it's like the bubble just keeps getting bigger. And we're all watching as the bubble gets bigger and bigger. We all know it's going to explode, but we want to pretend like it's not going to. We want to pretend like everything's going to be okay. But look at what's happening. This is not okay. Things are obviously not going to be okay. And I hate to be that guy, but let's just be honest. But here we are, folks. We are in the times that I warned you all about a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The time is now. The next couple of weeks are going to be really interesting. Because this last week, there's been a lot of things going on. And this isn't everything. These are just some of the 4 major events that are really out there, that are really, really driving us further into these conflicts. But you let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.